Hello, Sofa Squad, and welcome back to the damn sofa. That's the damn sofa. My damn name's Paul, and my damn sassy sidekick, Mr. Roscoe P. Coltrane, is taking a nap somewhere else. Y'all, today we're going to be talking about the Brian Laundrie notebook entries. Now, before I even say anything else, the day that this came out, I did a video, a live chat on this, so I'll link it below if you want to watch that and catch that vibe of it instead of this. This is just a more structured video, obviously without me stopping and talking to people and that kind of thing. So there's that. Don't forget, I also had the podcast channel, which is what that was on. So links down below if you want to sign up for that channel. We go live over there. We talk about quick case updates, that kind of thing. On this particular video, what we are talking about is we're going to read through the letter. I'm going to offer my opinion on some of the, well, on the whole thing. And then we're going to talk a little bit about this letter that, Roberta wrote to Brian. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the current lawsuit going on between against the Laundries from the Petito family. So that is it. And as usual, I want to say thank you to everybody for making the Sofa Squad possible. Y'all, would not be here without you. You don't even know. I would not be able to make the content that I make without your help and support. And I greatly appreciate it very much. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So what I wanted to do for this section now is I want to actually read through the letter that he left in the notebook or whatever. Now, also, side note, I did a live chat the first day that this came out and I went through it and all that. I'll put a link down in the description if you're into that, where I kind of talk back and forth with the people in the room and we go through it and we talk about it and dissect it. So there's that. But this, I'm just going to read through it and offer some opinions and thoughts on it as we go. And I'll do that. Now, I'll put little clips up of what I'm reading so you can see it on the screen as well. And I'm not going to be reading exactly from his notepad because obviously you've seen it at this point, right? It's completely messy, so I'm reading it from a news article that translated it basically. So I'm just saying. Okay, let's go ahead and start. Gabby, I wish I was right at your side. I wish I could be talking to you right now. I'd be going through every memory we've made, getting even more excited for the future. I can't live without you. I've lost every day we could have spent together, every holiday. I'll never get to play with unintelligible again. Never go hiking with TJ. I loved you more than anything. I can't bear to look at our photos, to recall great times, because it is why I cannot go on. When I close my eyes, I will think of laying on the roof of the van, falling asleep to the right of a meteor shower at the Crystal Geyser. I will always love you. Okay, so let's pause for a second. So this is opening up, and it's my understanding that these weren't in really a specific order or something like that. So there's that. So some of this will appear like, this does seem like his very first entry, right? And this is the order that it goes in this part right here, regardless, right? Notice how it's this I, right? It's this, I lost this, I did this, we'll never get to do this. It's all this kind of stuff in the very beginning. It's what he lost. It's also talking about the love that he had for her, so on and so forth. And again, it's deflecting, it's gaslighting, which I think this entire letter is nothing but gaslighting. In fact, I think this entire letter is nothing but his exit story, him trying to control the narrative of what happened, him trying to save face for what the truth really was and what was going to come out for everybody to see. Okay, let's continue. If you were reading Gab's journal, looking at the photos from our life together, flipping through old cards, you wouldn't want to live a day without her. Knowing that every day you'll wake up without her, you wouldn't want to wake up. I'm sorry to everyone this will affect. Gabby was the love of my life, but I know adored by many. I'm so very sorry to her family because I love them. I'd consider her younger siblings my best of friends. I am sorry to my family. This is a shock to them as well as a terrible grief. Okay, again, it's just looking for sympathy, that kind of a thing from other people. Oh, I loved her. Oh, her siblings were like my little siblings and the whole 9 yards, and my family loved her and all this. And we'll get more into this again with my opinions on what he's saying about the family, because I felt like his family showed, and specifically the parents, their true feelings about Gabby and the scenario when they so quickly turned on the scenario when all this went down and kind of zipped their lips in that whole 9 yards. So let's keep going. They loved as much, if not more than me. A new daughter to my mother, an aunt to my, it looks like it's supposed to be nephews. Please do not make this harder for them. This occurred as an unexpected tragedy. rushing back to our car, trying to cross the stream of Spread Creek before it got too dark to see, too cold. I hear a splash and a scream. I could barely see. I couldn't find her for a moment. Shouted her name. I found her breathing heavily, gasping my name. She was freezing cold. We had just came from the blazing hot national parks in Utah. The temperature had dropped to freezing and she was soaking wet. I carried her as far as I could down the stream towards the car, stumbling, exhausted and shocked, when my knees buckled and knew I couldn't safely carry her. I started a fire and spooned her as close to the heat. She was so thin, had already been freezing too long. I couldn't at the time realize that I should have started a fire first, but I wanted her out of the cold back to the car. From where I started the fire, I had no idea how far the car might be. Only knew it was across the creek. When I pulled Gabby out of the water, she couldn't tell me what hurt. She had a small bump on her forehead that eventually got larger. Her feet hurt, her wrist hurt, but she was freezing, shaking violently while carrying her. She continually made sounds of pain. Laying next to her, she said little lapsing between violent shakes, gasping in pain, begging for an end to her pain. She would fall asleep and I would shake her awake, fearing she shouldn't close her eyes if she had a concussion. She would wake in pain, start the whole painful cycle again while furious that I was the one waking her. She wouldn't let me try to cross the creek, thought like me that the fire would go out in her sleep and she'd freeze. I don't know the extent of Gabby's injuries, only that she was in extreme pain. I ended her life. I thought it was merciful, that it was what she wanted, but I now see all the mistakes I made. I panicked. I was in shock. But from that moment I decided, took away her pain. I knew I couldn't go on without her. Okay, there's a lot to say about this section. So, first of all, he's going back into, a daughter to my mother and all this. And like I said earlier, I feel like his parents showed just how quickly, and how much the saying is true of blood is thicker than water, happened when all this went down. Because remember, she was living with him. I mean, a lot of the world really felt like that's why they were shocked. It's like, this was like your family member, right? I mean, this was your son's fiance. And very quickly it was, nope, done, sorry. So that whole vibe's going on there. Then the story that he is selling us. Now again, I'm still standing by this. This is a story. This is a work of fiction. I don't believe this. That being said, was I there? No. Do I have secret, spidey senses about this? Absolutely not. I wasn't there. So this is completely just me going off on my little rabbit hole with it, right? So take it as you will. It's just my opinion. First of all, this reads like a story. His sentence structures, the way it's written, it's like a short story, right? So it doesn't feel like somebody who's writing something from an emotional, these are my last words. It feels like someone who is thinking about a narrative, if that makes sense. Okay, so then he's sitting here saying, she fell, basically they're going through this creek, she falls, she hits her head, she's injured, okay. They have no idea how far away they are, but she's freezing cold. He's carrying her. He can't carry her any farther. He has to make a fire for her. This is where this all falls apart. Okay, and now, again, for me, I'm going based on, let's pretend that this is all true, right? So my thing is I'm like, okay, if she's essentially slowly dying in front of you, then you have a couple of choices. If you know she's going to die slowly there in front of you, then why not say, the other choice is for me to just pack my stuff up, go to the car, get help, and go from there, right? If she's going to die either way, load the fire up, at least she can die comfortably while I'm going to do that. If she's saying she doesn't want you to leave, well, guess what, honey? You're gonna die here. We gotta buckle up, That's my thing. So this whole thing of him writing this and saying that, it doesn't make any sense. And this is the whole thing of like, I loved her and her family this and da-da-da-da-da. Well, this is where you have to make a hard decision. This is someone you're gonna spend your life with. This is your soulmate. And you're saying that the better choice was to kill her, to take her out of her pain, and then immediately say, whoop, I can't go on without her, so I'm going to have to do the same to myself. literally makes no sense. And now, I said this in the live chat. If you're familiar with the Anthony Todd case, this screams Anthony Todd. Very similar to the testimony he gave on the stand about the reasoning he took his family out, basically gaslighting and blaming his family and mostly his wife, and going into this rant about, trying to assist his wife and taking her life, and it went on for days, and it was just absolutely absurd, right? I mean, it was just an insult to anybody listening to it that he was getting up there trying to sell the story to us. And this falls in line with this, although I will say his Brian's sentence structure is a lot better than Anthony's. I'll give him that. I mean, he's definitely, a seasoned reader or writer. So anyways, let's keep going. I rushed home to spend any time I had left with my family. I wanted to drive north and let James or TJ kill me, but I wouldn't want them to spend time in jail over my mistake, even though I'm sure they would have liked to. I am ending my life not because of a fear of punishment, but rather because I can't stand to live another day without her. I've lost our whole future together, every moment we could have cherished. I'm sorry for everyone's loss. Please do not make life harder for my family. They lost a son and a daughter, the most wonderful girl in the world. Gabby, I'm sorry. I have killed myself by this creek in the hopes that animals may tear me apart, that it may make some of her family happy. Please pick up all of my things. Gabby hated people who litter. Okay, very dramatic queen we have here. Okay, so he rushes home to spend time with his family. Okay, wish Gabby had the chance to do that, you know what I'm saying? All this talk about, oh, love this, love that, no. Anyways, so then, I wanted to go up there to, to let James or TJ kill me, but I wouldn't want them to get a jail charge over me, so I was the bigger man and didn't let that happen. Again, this whole narrative of this, savior complex, like whatever you want to call it, I don't know. Okay, and so then, I couldn't stand to live another day without her. I'm not doing this to escape punishment. It's just I can't go without Gabby. Again, one thing about these personality types is it's just so interesting how they have to pivot everything back to themselves. They are always the victim. I mean, even in a scenario, which, I can never wrap my mind around it. It will always piss me off no matter what, just as fresh as the next crazy one will. That even in the scenarios where they wipe out their families or they wipe out their girlfriends or their fiancés or their husbands or whatever, they will find a way to victimize themselves over it and garner and seek out sympathy from the public. It will never be normal to me, and then even on a normal daily basis because we run into these kind of people like all the time, right, that haven't wiped out their families, but they just operate in daily life. And, but so obviously these are extreme cases right here, right? But we run into these people all the time. You see TikToks of them, you see videos of them freaking out in public, and it's just like, what? But when you get to this level, it's so infuriating because it just seems so disgusting that they do something like this and steal someone's life and then try and turn around and say, but woe is me. You know what I'm saying? So then when he's like, the last lines in here where I kill myself so that the animals can tear me apart so it'll make her family feel better. I'm like, cry me a damn river. You know what I'm saying? I'm just like, come on, dude. And then please pick up all my things. Gabby hated people who littered. It just blows my mind. The absolute absurdity of it. And then this line, please don't make life harder for my family. Well, guess what? You signed them right up for that. Period. Because not only is he escaping the accountability for what he did to Gabby, look at the position that he put all these different people in. You know what I'm saying? Put his own family in this, situation of whatever's going on with that, right? We don't know how much they knew and all this stuff. There's all that drama. Then look at Gabby's family. They lost their daughter, right? But now they're in this huge public case. Now this whole thing with, the family, all that. It's insane. The amount of carnage and turmoil these people cause, and then just as in normal fashion, they do all this and then walk away, and in this case he took his life, right? And so there's that. Shocked they left, they put the letter out. Honestly, I'm shocked. It makes him look so much worse. You know, I'm just like, I mean, I'm glad they did so that we could see it and read this. But yeah, so there's that. So anyways, I wanted to talk about that part. Let's move on and discuss some other dynamics going on, because there's much more going on at the same time with this case that's just like, oh my God, this is just, you know, are we ever going to get all the answers? Are we ever going to get all the justice? Okay, so now let's talk about the other letter. The letter that allegedly, apparently, we will see as we talk about it, that Brian Laundrie's mother, Roberta, left him. Now, what I'm going to do is I have my notes right here in front of me. I'm going to be referencing an interview and an article, things of that nature. They're linked down below about this, because at the time of this recording, this has not been released to the public yet. I'm not sure if we will see it or not. There's a lot of, you know, around it or whatever, because a central point or part of the discussion around this particular letter is, when was it written? Because if it was written, as you know, some are alleging that it was done a while ago and it's making movie references and this kind of thing, okay, right? There's that level. If it was written during the time that all this went down, I don't care if there's movie references or not, it looks really bad, okay? So anyways, if I'm looking down or whatever, I'm just looking at the notes, so just bear with me, okay? So the attorney who is representing the Petitos in the civil lawsuit, his name is Patrick Riley. Now, he was recently on News Nation. He was doing an interview, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to talk about some of the key statements that he made, because at one point in the interview, like, it goes kind of sideways, and what I mean by that is he makes a statement. I'm actually going to quote him now. He says, "I find it ironic that Mr. Bertolino says he was, in full transparency, releasing this. Well, someone should ask him why he doesn't release the entire notebook. But more importantly, ask him why he doesn't release Roberta Laundrie's letter to her son." Okay, so this whole part now, and what he's referencing here is talking about those notebook pages we just talked about, right? And so during this is when he's like, you know, well, what about this? And slammed his gavel on the damn chair. No, he didn't do that, but so you know that was like a bombshell, right? And they're like, hello, what letter? What are we talking about? So there's that. So let's go on to like now talk about some of the key statements made about this. So Riley will go on to say, he's like, you know, within that letter is an offer from Roberta Laundrie to assist her son. He also says that Roberta had written on the letter, like on the back of it or something, burn after you read. It was on the outside of the letter. He also says that there's no date on the letter, but that it appears to have been written between the time that Gabby's life was taken from her and that Brian took his own life. So that's what I'm talking about, what I said a few minutes ago, or a couple of minutes ago, whatever it is at this point, right? If that is the case and that was done and they're trying to be like, well, no, that's a movie reference or whatever, I mean, hello. And it looks even worse or whatever, I mean, I don't know. Let's keep talking. So he says that there's different scenarios in the letter, such as if you go to jail, I'll bake a cake and put a knife in it or a saw in it. Now, that's like an old cliche if you're not familiar with that back in the day. I mean, they might still make jokes about this in TV and stuff, where somebody would bake a cake and put a knife in it to send to the prisoner or whatever. That kind of a thing, and they would saw their way out of the jail, right? I think it was like on, I can remember that on Andy Griffith and stuff like that. Now, he also says, my understanding is that the letter at one point had been in the van, but then it was taken from the Laundrie home during the time when the search warrant was executed, the lawyer said. Okay, let's keep going. Riley also told News Nation that the notebook was not the only confession that Brian left. So here's the other thing. He says that there's two more confessions, and one of them's on a digital device, and another's in like a third written form. Now, again, at the time of this video that I'm recording it, those have not been released yet. It very well could have happened by the time you're seeing this. I don't know. Now, he has not said that he's seen those submissions, but he was told by the FBI investigators about those. Okay, so now let's circle back around. So knowing all this, like these little key points from the letter, whatever, this is what I'm talking about with the timing of it, right? Because depending on when that was written, you know, and the context, like why it was, no matter what, like, right, say they can 100% prove, like, oh no, it was this, it wasn't directly related to that situation. Again, depending on the timing of it, whatever, it's still not a cute look. And no matter what, right now, with the way things are going, it's not good, right? It ain't helping their case. Now, of course, this is very interesting during this time because this is a civil suit going on, right? So that's the whole thing that we're going to kind of segue into, like, why is this so important, like, about this letter and all that? Not only the truth of the matter, whatnot, but because the civil suit is going on, right? And so a lot of this stuff is coming out. It feels intentional to me, at least. So there's that. So let's talk about the lawsuit going on right now. So the suit, and again, I'm just kind of referring to my little notes here. The suit has been filed by Gabby's parents, the Petitos, and it claims that the Laundries knew what Brian did and were helping him to flee justice, basically. And that they knew the whereabouts of Gabby's body. It's like, well, all this is going on, these huge, massive searches and all this type of stuff. Like they basically knew everything, right? And so they were essentially, just stalling the situation, protecting Brian, helping him get away, the whole 9 yards. Okay, so there's that. Now, Gabby's parents is Joseph Petito and Nicole Schmidt. They're seeking more than $30,000 in damages for the mental anguish suffered during the alleged deceit of the Laundries. Now, I'm quoting that from a People magazine article. Again, it's down in the description below if you want to read the whole thing for yourself. And again, it's just going on about the concealing of her, what happened to her, so on and so forth. Now, I'm going to also now talk about one specific little passage in the filing. And it says, Christopher Laundrie and Roberta Laundrie exhibited extreme and outrageous conduct, which constitutes behavior under the circumstances which goes beyond all possible bounds of decency and is regarded as shocking, atrocious, and utterly intolerable in a civilized community. I mean, this is pretty severe, right? And this is what a lot of people have issue with, is because, what I've kind of seen in the world of this, when I say the world of this, comment sections, that kind of thing, there's almost like two worlds of it, right? Where it's like people either feel the Laundries had something to do with it or not. They either feel like Brian had something to do with it or not. It's like this whole thing, which I just find interesting. And even the letter, it was like, oh, well, they wrote this and this person didn't do that and all that kind of stuff. So it's very complicated, right? And I feel like one thing that the Petitos are doing for sure is they really just want answers, right? They're filing this lawsuit hoping to get down to the nitty-gritty of this. And so hopefully for them, whatever the nitty-gritty is, right, that can come out. And obviously if justice needs to be served, that can take place. Now, we haven't seen any charges against Brian Laundrie's parents, right? So there's that. Now, I'm just going to keep going through my notes here. Now, the first hearing in the lawsuit was recently held. Now, I'm recording this on the 28th, so I'm not sure when you're going to see this. But the Laundries were not present. However, they weren't legally required to be there. So there's that. Again, would I expect them to be there? No, right? Did we see them doing anything during the search and all that kind of stuff? No. And on that note, well, let me talk about one thing first. So the judge did hear arguments in this hearing recently. This was about a motion that was filed to basically dismiss the case. It was brought on by the Laundrie's attorney, just have the lawsuit completely thrown out. He has listened to those arguments. Now, again, at the time of this recording, the results of that have not been put out. By the time you're watching this, they very well might have. And we'll talk about that in a later video or whatever. So the Laundrie's attorney is basically like, look, this lawsuit is baseless that they brought against us. They did what anybody would and should do, which, is essentially zip your lips and be quiet. So there's that. I just think that that's what a lot of people have issue with, is the fact that they zipped their lips and got quiet when there's this whole narrative, even in Brian's notebook, of, oh, this was like my mother's, daughter and did all this stuff. And it's like, but, they kind of just ditched her to the side, stopped talking, didn't even let the parents know, Gabby's parents, like, hey, this is going on. Brian just showed up by himself. It's very weird, right? And so there's that. We are going to be completely stay tuned to this dynamic of the case to see what is going to happen, because I'm very curious. I'm very curious to know if we'll find out more information. And I'm also very curious to keep seeing this evidence that comes out. The notebook entry was, infuriating, right? I mean, come on, right? I didn't believe a word of that, right? And I just felt like it was controlling the narrative. And so this whole dynamic here, I just need solid factual information about what I need to see this letter from Roberta to Brian, number one. Number two, I need to know when it was done. You know what I'm saying? And what exactly is in it before I jump on a bandwagon of, oh my God, it means this or that. Because right now there's just these little tidbits that are like, it sounds bad. And most everything surrounding this case obviously has been bad. You know what I'm saying? It has not looked good for like that side of the fence. So it wouldn't surprise me if that's how it all holds up, right? So anyways, there is that. Again, I appreciate everybody who makes this channel possible. Drop some hearts in the comment section for Gabby and for all the other victims in these cases that we talk about, whose time and voices have been stolen from this earth. Again, all the main links and resources are down below if you want to check those out, so be sure and check them out. And that's it. I hope everybody's doing well, and until we gather around the damn sofa with the damn computer and we'll get damn Roscoe back for the next damn video, I'll see y'all soon.